Hey everybody, I just wanted to get a blog post out there to explain, well, sort of a video out there to explain a little spreadsheet, a little project that I'm working on, and this is my goals spreadsheet, and I just wanted to share it because it was kind of awesome. Basically, the main gist of it is that you have a goal that you're defining over here, you create a start date and an end date, and then you create a goal number, and then you track how many you've done, so my goal is 8, and let's say I have like 5 that I've done. It'll tell me, it'll, update this little bar chart over here, this bar graph, uh, according to how many I've done of the whole thing. Pretty sweet, right? And there's this little thing here, this little green dotted line. I don't know if you can see this in the video, but there's a green dotted line over here, which corresponds to where I should be according to the pace defined by my start date and my end date. And I'll go more into sort of the philosophy of all of this stuff. I didn't really want to just talk about the particular technicality of this particular Excel sheet. There's a lot of cool, weird math stuff going on in the background to define these, to define this bar graph, which is actually just cells in an Excel sheet. And if you want to, you can look into I'll post this stuff on the internet, so you can go to my website and find this Excel sheet, or it'll be in the description of this video if you just want to download it and tinker with it yourself. But I just sort of wanted to explain the philosophy as to why I came up with this and how it became useful for me. So basically, recently, I've been doing a lot of work on a variety of different creative projects, and I was sort of finding that it wasn't really, it just didn't feel right. Something about it all felt really wrong, right? So what was going on was that, like, I had all these projects on my plate, and so many other projects that I wanted to get to. There's like an excess of stuff that I wanted to be doing, which is a good thing. I'm certainly grateful for the fact that there are always like things bubbling around in my head, but there's just so many things, and like I can't do all those things, right? And in the meantime, I have all these responsibilities. So I churn through my emails. An email comes in, I blast it back out, and then there are things that sort of sit in my inbox in more non-email related ways, like literal mail that I get, or like someone gives me a phone call, or someone tells me, hey Albert, can you help me with this thing or whatever. And so there's all these like things sitting in my like cognitive inbox, and I just like couldn't really handle all of it. Basically what was going on is I felt like I was just churning along on these to-dos, which is, I did a lot of churning on these to-dos, and basically the way that I found was the best way to deal with it was to find different tools through which I can churn on these to-dos. So one of the tools that I found was this book called Getting Things Done, which is this awesome, it's this really great like book about managing your attention and managing all the activities that you do. And that really helped immensely, and I was able to get more of my to-dos done quickly. And that was really awesome. And then another thing that I want to talk to you guys about is this thing called Remember the Milk, right? And Remember the Milk is a to-do list. It's this like this to-do list that sits on your phone and on your computer. It like embeds in a Gmail. It's this really awesome thing. You can create all these to-dos and then put them on, and then they're just sort of reminders for yourself. But really, the more to-dos I kept doing, the more to-dos would pop up. And eventually I just sort of realized that this is not exactly rewarding, right? I mean, I'm not like done ever. I'm always behind because I always have a list. And in fact, at the end of like the way I would define success would be like, it is midnight. Am I tired? Well, I guess I worked really hard today, right? I mean, like, and therefore it must have been a successful day. It was this weird thing, where success is like defined by whether or not you're fatigued simply because you work that hard or whatever, right? and then actually, you do all this work, and then all of it culminates into either a project that's finished, and then when that project is finished, you're like, wow, I achieved a goal, but it wasn't really the goal that I had set out to achieve intentionally. It was just sort of a random set of events that culminated into a finished product, and therefore it feels like it was not the goal that I wanted, and therefore I don't really feel rewarded. I just feel kind of fatigued, um, and I guess I should feel happy about that. Uh, and I mean, it's nice getting things done. Obviously, it's nice to like finish all your to dos. It's awesome. It feels great, but at the same time, like there was just something that just wasn't really lining up for me. And really, I think to the analogy of all of this is that I felt like I was on an assembly line. I felt like I was just like churning through and just getting really tired and getting like brain carpal tunnel from like not actually having a really healthy, balanced lifestyle. And so instead of just streamlining my to-dos with, I mean, in addition to streamlining my to-dos, I wanted something else. But I couldn't figure out what it was that I wanted. So, so I chilled out. I like stopped doing work. I had to like slow down. I was like, this is whatever it is right now. It just sort of isn't really working for me. And I want something. I want to do something else. So instead, as I was passing the time, I started playing video games, as I love to do. And this is actually one of the video games that I'm playing right now. This video game is awesome. It's called Super Monday Night Combat. And video games are so much better than real life when it comes to reward systems, right? Because they are designed to be reward systems in and of themselves, right? So this particular game, any well-designed game, all the rewards are very clear, right? And the reason all these rewards are very clear is because there is a structure in place. There's a set of rules that defines whether or not you win, and that's awesome, right? Because when you're done with the game, you know whether or not you succeeded. You either succeeded or you failed, right? And all the design for the game is to help you reinforce the desire to succeed and to avoid failure, right? And here in this particular game, one of the ways they do that is through visual feedback through these. I mean, there's many ways that they do this, but one of the main ways they do this is through visual feedback. And here, there's a lot of visual feedback telling you whether or not you succeed or fail, right? And there are all these like miniature goals sort of embedded into the gameplay that help you define whether or not you're succeeding and failing on the moment-to-moment level and on the game per game level and even on the social level. So I just wanted to go a really quick overview of a few of the very, very many varieties of ways that you can succeed and fail in these games, right? So in this particular screenshot here, this particular character has this bar down here, and when this hits like 100% over here, then you like go into a different state, and that is a form of success. And then you have this health bar, so when your health goes all the way down to 0, obviously you fail because you lose your life. You can respawn or whatever, and you come back. And there's like this experience bar down here, and then there's the health of all your teammates, and then there's like the I don't know. I mean, I don't really want to explain all the details of this game, but like everything is clear. You're winning or you're losing, right? And you know exactly how far away you are from doing the opposite. And so that's the moment-to-moment stuff. And then at the end of the game, you can look at all your stats, and that's like how you've measured up in the game according to you and your teammates and your opponents and all of the teammates over there. And then there's this thing down here, which is like your level set, which is this whatever. It's this meta thing. But even so even from game to game, beyond that. Oh, when games, in addition to this success thing, they like randomly pepper in these like cool, hey, congratulations, just for playing, you've you've won Aptalube Bacon, right? And so you like win these like random superfluous rewards just for like sticking around, which is awesome. And then even in the meta version of that, like outside of the game, there's a social network that this game is sort of comes embedded inside, which is called Steam, um, which is a marketplace for games. And then in Steam, when you win game achievements inside the game, it'll publish it to Steam so you can share it with all your friends. So in addition to like being inside the context of the game, these rewards are like external, and you can share them with your friends and brag, hey, like I got this achievement, but you didn't get that achievement or whatever, right? So it becomes a social thing where everyone can sort of celebrate how much um, we've been succeeding by somebody else's standards, right? It's this really bizarre framework, but it's useful. It's really cool, and it makes people feel good about themselves. Um, and so basically, what I found was in reevaluating this grind, this to do, the day to day, inbox outbox. I wanted to keep doing actually good versions of this, but I wanted to like be a little bit more directed with how I was defining what I was doing and how I would be rewarded, I guess, if that makes sense. Like I wanted to. So if the game is able to create rewards and failures for me, if I could buy into that, I wanted to buy in my own system of creating failures and successes, and so all of that sort of rests on this idea of setting goals, right? Now, I've done an embarrassingly large amount of research on what it means to set a proper goal, and most experts would say that like a goal is pretty much like it has these two things. One, it has this like time frame, right? And two, it has a way to quantify whether or not you succeeded or failed, right? So a goal, by most people's definition, is like it starts now and it ends sometime in the future. And when that time in the future occurs, you either won or lost that goal. That's it. That's all it is, right? It is, and so when you ask people to set goals, there's this weird thing where they're like, I want to be a better writer, which is like totally a cool aspiration. Like I think we should all aspire to be better people. When we should all like try to do better things with our lives or whatever. But for example, being a better writer simply isn't a goal, because there was no time frame and there's no way to determine whether or not you won or lost, right? And then if you try to fixate on, I want to be a better writer, what does it mean to be a better writer? And then you try to define being a better writer, then it's doing this weird thing where you define better writer as saying like, oh, someone who wins this particular award is a good writer, and then someone who does not win that particular award is a bad writer. And therefore, like, you start creating weird labels where you define, so-and-so is a good writer simply because they got an award, because they're playing someone else's reward system, right? And that's bizarre. But anyway, I guess I'm sort of getting off track. What I'm saying is, a goal is just something that happens to have a definite positive or negative feature at a certain point in time in the future, right? And so I wanted to apply that to what I was doing with my life. And so that's sort of what all this Excel sheet business comes from, right? So, for example, one of the first things I started doing, I started really implementing this Excel sheet in this last project that I did, which was Spatial Computing Part 3. And I actually started doing it on the 16th of April. And by the 20th of April, I wanted to be completely done with all of my frames, right? And so I started on the 16th, I ended on the 20th, and it's green because it's a completed goal. And I wanted to get 18,000 frames done, which is how many frames were in the project at that particular point. And every day I'd enter in a new number as to how many frames I had finished by that point. And this is actually a confusing, Spatial Computing 3 is a confusing goal set to look at simply because that is a finished goal and some of the math gets confusing. Anyway, so actually the reason I'm doing this video is because I want to post it to my blog. And I have this goal to have, one blog post every 2 weeks for 2 months. Started on the 1st, and it is, as you can see, the 13th. So I'm actually due for a blog post soon, and I wanted to end on the the first of the 7th month of the year. I never really learned my months: January, February, March, May, June, July. 1st of July. By the 1st of July, I want 8 done. Right now, I have 0 done. This is the percentage I have done, 0, obviously. But if I do 1, then it pops up to 13%. And this is my pace. This is how many I should have done according to, this definition. Oh wait, this needs to be 1 blog post every 2 weeks for 2 months. Yes. I don't need 8. I need 7, I think. I don't know. I need to work out this math. But I will do that outside of the context of this video. Anyway, this pace says how many posts you need to get done by now according to this start date and end date, right? So, for example, let's say I change my goal to get like 20 blog posts done. Then it updates this to say, oh, you should probably have around 4 of those done by now, because it's already 2 weeks into your time frame. Or if I wanted 1, obviously it'll be like, oh, you only need like 1/5 of 1 done now because you have 2 months to do this 1 blog post, right? And then also this is the percentage of the pace, which is like how many you need to get done. So as you update this number, it'll update this bar graph over here, which will give you feedback and tell you, hey, look, like I'm pretty far close to finishing this goal if I were like at 7 of 8, obviously. And this visual feedback is huge for me because it does replicate this thing, right? All these like dials and meters and timers and stuff, like those are all useful for me. And I think that this visual feedback is really huge for me. And then all these things over here are sort of, for the most part, these are just sort of to aid all the calculations that are done over on this side. But lastly, there's this why thing, and a lot of people think that you need to have a compelling reason as to why this goal is necessary for you. And Spatial Computing 3, I just wanted to get it done so that I can move on with my life at the time, right? Goals are arbitrary. There's just this weird thing. I mean, the way I like to think about what a goal does is the way I think about games. Why do you play a game? So that you can like win and lose at something, and so you can be competitive for a moment, and so that you can like value something totally arbitrary and that's kind of completely meaningless. But it somehow changes the way you see the world, right? So, for example, I decided to meditate 6 hours in 3 weeks. It is weird to set a goal for something that is very non-goal oriented, meditation, right? But I found it really helpful for me to keep on track to like actually, maintain a practice of meditating. And at the end, and one really nice thing about all of this is just like at the end of the game, you're done. You can look back and see whether or not you've completed what you wanted to do. So whether or not you succeeded or failed in your goal. You can also review as to say, oh, this worked, and this did not work, right? I've learned from this experience. I will try to play the game again, or I will play the game with a different set of rules this time. Or that really wasn't useful for me, and therefore I just I'm done with this game, right? Those are all valid solutions, and that's what really goals are. They're just sort of like miniature games that you set for yourself. Now, that's sort of all of it. It's just that I've defined a really nice reward system for myself. I can come in here and evaluate see, like here, I can tell that I'm ahead of this goal, which is running. That green bar is where I should be paced, and then that particular bar, the end of that thing over there, is where I am right now. And my goal is this like totally silly goal of running under a 6-minute mile, because I've never run a 6-minute mile, and it was always this one thing that I wanted to do. Anyway, one of the weird things about the software or this Excel sheet is that you need to define your goals as if they start at 0 and end at a number above 0. So, for example, this 6-minute mile, I was, at the time that I set this goal, I was running a 6:30 because I had sort of been trying to achieve this goal for a while, but never like really put it down in writing and evaluated it like this. But so the unit has to be seconds under 6:30 so that I can start at 0 because I am 0 seconds under 6:30. And my goal is to get to 30 seconds under 6:30, right? Like you can't, the way that the math works on this Excel sheet requires so that you start at 0 and get to a number above 0. So, in any case, this when I'm bored and I don't really know what to do and I don't want to do my to-dos, I don't want to answer my emails or do those things that are like tedious, I can always check in with this, and that's what I did actually, and saw, hey, I owe myself a blog post because I wanted to do more blog posting. And I can sort of keep up with all my meters and keep in check, and and if something's totally unrealistic, I can reset my goals and just like press the reset button on the Nintendo way back in the day when there was that big thick reset button. It's the same sort of thing here. Like if there's a goal that I like, I can pursue it. If there's one that I don't like, I can reset and start over. But yeah, for the most part, I'm pretty happy with it so far. Sorry for rambling for so long. Thanks for tuning in. If you want this Excel sheet, check the description of this video or go to my website and look at the blog post for all this. Yeah, thanks for tuning in and sticking it out with me. And yeah, if you guys have any comments or want to innovate upon this spreadsheet, you're more than welcome to. One dream I have is that sometime in the future I'd be able to make this into a website, so you could like set all these things down on the internet and share your goals with other people or whatever. I don't know, all those other things that are cool with the internets these days. So yeah, once again, thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you around next time, which will be in a blog post 2 weeks from now. Peace.